It's not fire on my dove. She has a perfect love. It's not fair. It's not fair. You wait around for something that may never come. You wanna try before it's done. Say you wouldn't know. I held you down because I could. It wasn't right. The pain you felt on that night wasn't right. Say you wouldn't know. Say you wouldn't go. It's not fair. It's not fair. Toss it back and side to side again. You wanted to save her, but then remember when we couldn't lie. We couldn't die. The pain I felt every night, I can try again for you, but I can't hold again. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair.
Together one more time. Coming up next, we got Tristan here. He's going to speak on some degrowth, and we're going to have a little bit of a conversation, a little bit of a breakdown, and then next after that, we got the Aquaponics that are going to be coming up, rocking with us here today. So, okay, let's put our hands up for Tristan. He's going to come up to the stage.
Check. Hello everyone, thank you very much. Thank you to the organizers, the whole team involved. Thank you to all of you for being here, the staff of the Vine for hosting, and for everyone making this what it is. And hopefully we can get into some conversation. So my name is Tristan. I'm going to talk very briefly about something that Ash mentioned on stage just about half an hour ago. Degrowth. It's underpinning, I think, a lot of the ethos and the actions that have brought people together into this festival, into They Want We Will. And so yeah, I just want to offer like some words in terms of like what degrowth is, a little bit about how it came to be, and why I think it resonates with lots of people around the world, and why it's a growing movement for social justice, economic justice, climate and environmental justice, and a vision for a world that is more relational, more connected, more responsible, more accountable, and yeah, more deeply embedded in the broader web of kinship and life that sustains us all and keeps us all going. Before we get to that, there's a flyer which I will pass around, which gives a very one-sentence description of degrowth. For us, degrowth means a collective project of emancipation for all peoples. And I would maybe add for all beings and peoples. And so I want to just invite everyone, you don't have to close your eyes, but just, if we're thinking about a collective project of emancipation for all beings and peoples, in your life, in your community, if there was one thing that you could change, like one wish, what would that be? So just a way of kind of bringing us all into this space together. So maybe, just take a few seconds. If there's one thing in particular, one wish that you have for yourself, your community, your neighborhoods, to serve these broader goals of emancipation for all beings and all peoples, what would that one thing be? Just a few seconds to think about it. Maybe it's just the first thing that comes up. It's what speaks with you. And hopefully, as the afternoon progresses, we'll have a chance to share with one another what came up for you, and how and why certain ideas come to the fore when we're thinking about these collective projects. So degrowth is, as Ash mentioned, it's both a concept, it's a set of critiques that sharpen our understanding and ways of scrutinizing systems of inequality and injustice, and forming our collective projects and forms of intervention to address those unequal and harmful outcomes. But it's also a way of connecting movements that are already underway and which are working towards economic justice, or just working towards a better, fairer, more immediate way of meeting people's basic needs, which currently people are not only facing economic hardships and all the systemic forms of marginalization and exclusion that have always structured societies such as this one, but we're seeing this at a moment where some of these global connections and the potential for global collaborations and other forms of solidarity to work across sectors, work across communities and across locations is really coming to the fore. In terms of the critique, and I want to just read out some of the ways in which degrowth emphasizes and makes these connections between the critiques of capitalism and the critiques of an economic and social and political system which is fixated on delivering one thing at the moment, that is economic growth, which is GDP growth. The primary purpose is that end. It's not about provisioning for people, it's not about care, it's not about fostering community and human and social life in this wider, wonderful universe. It really is a singular focus. Once we begin to analyze the ways in which these different elements of the critiques of growth connect, that's where I think we find really exciting points of connection between different movements. And hopefully, I feel like that's what Mutual Aid, some of the groups here today, certainly people working more broadly in Long Beach and Los Angeles, and really bringing together. So on one hand, we have the ecological critique of growth. It's so evident around the world and in so many communities where we live, right? But undermining and undoing the previously very balanced and vibrant balance of ecological life that has supported biodiversity, has supported cultures of life across species that for many millennia have functioned symbiotically, have functioned in ways which allowed beings who were in relationship with in place to thrive. Once we have as we have witnessed the scope and scale of extraction and the destruction of resources, all of which is serving primarily economic growth, what we see is not only localized ecological damage, but the very undermining of these webs, the complex balanced webs of life and systems that are being undermined. There's also the socioeconomic critique, and that's where what we witness and different ways experience in terms of the inaccessibility of not only economic well-being or resources or having wealth, but even just the sense of stability, like the idea that daily life can exist in a way that is not completely at the whim and behest of forces completely beyond our control, and in which we have no political say. So that's another thing. Critique of capitalism we're perhaps familiar with. I also want to touch on the cultural critique of growth, which Degrowth gets into, and this is what makes a festival like this, I think, so important. The very spirit behind They Won't We Will is a reclaiming of not just the power to do things and work together and to bring into being the kinds of relationships and encounters and conversations that we want to have in our lives and share with other people as a way of building futures that are more forgiving and inclusive and welcoming and thriving for everyone and all beings. But it's also reclaiming that sense of what's possible and what's desirable. And I think spaces like this are fundamental to counteracting that cultural work that capitalism and that growth-based economics have been very successful in doing, which is eradicating, silencing, rubbishing, undermining any kind of alternative, which is instead based in collectivity, community, cooperation, and care. Another critique of growth is the feminist critique of growth, right? That so much of the work that goes into producing society, into all of us being able to function as individuals, as communities, as human beings, not only is a lot of that work highly, highly, highly gendered and a lot of it unpaid, but within that we then have a whole concept of what is work, what is value, which perpetuates forms of exclusion and inequality that exist across society, yes, particularly in these highly gendered hierarchies, also in terms of racial hierarchies and white supremacist beliefs, which continue to structure, say, not only how the economy is structured and how politics is organized, but actually have these cultural impacts, these socio-cultural impacts, which end up shaping broader ideas around what is possible and desirable. And so the spaces like this is like the very opposite of that. It's not just a top opportunity to gather and be in community and connection, but it's a way of reviving and reclaiming and really re-experiencing what it is to have that revived sense of possibility. And then it's on the flyer, but also an important thing about degrowth, like yes, there is this focus on the immediate, on the relational, on what it takes to be closely connected to and concerned about the people that you are living with and around, and working on that very, kind of almost sensual, but at least kind of experiential level, in community, in place, and maintaining those connections. But also, degrowth brings in the global element as well. So it's absolutely about reclaiming collectivity and care and processes of provisioning, which prioritize well-being in a way that has been radically and systematically excluded. But doing that, recognizing how, perhaps not on an individual level, but certainly at a regional level and a national level, how everything that we're doing here collectively can not only support in acts of solidarity global movements elsewhere, but it can also be deeply informed by that. And so recognizing, yes, on the one hand, these like macroeconomic inequalities between the global north and the global south, absolutely, and recognizing how choices we can make collectively can work towards justice at a broader global level, but also just, reaching out and learning from and being part of this global exchange of strategies, insights, and solidarity. So degrowth is many things. As I say, it's a concept. It's offering these different points of critique and a way of understanding and scrutinizing systems of inequality, but it is also about how to build the networks, support the networks, foster the kinds of collective action which help to counteract all those systemic flaws and injustices, but also fully grounded in, rooted in, committed to connection, relationality, accountability, and there's a lot there, and this space is creating it and supporting that. Thanks again to Vine for hosting. I'll be around. I would like to hear from other people. Happy to answer questions as we go. And yeah, we might have a little...
Yeah, I might
have a couple of questions for you, Tristan. First of all, let's put the hands together one more time for Tristan. Right there. And then let's offer it up for the audience. Does anybody have any questions or comments? I just went down. That was a wonderful little thing right there, Tristan. Well, Tristan, what I would ask, and especially pivotal in a space like this, what would you say the connection between degrowth and art is in the most general way?
Thank you very much. It is a fantastic question, and if anything, you know, so degrowth, it's a literature, right? There's an academic world of research being published on these themes, and it's actually a critique of that, which doesn't always include art and cultural work and creativity. And there's always this danger, right? Like degrowth, it's not one single program way forward for the future. It offers different ideas about how we might build collective counterpower, build the kinds of communities that we want. But there is this danger that it gets focused on these big political, economic, systemic changes that we have to bring about. And sometimes there's a sense, it's like, oh yeah, and we'll come back to art and culture. Like, you know, once we really sort out the politics and economics, then we'll come back and do the culture, because that's also important, which is so dangerous, right? And so I really appreciate this question, because it gets, you know, beyond just, you know, if I can't dance, then I don't want to be part of your revolution. Like, that's part of it, like making, of course, all of our work and time together as enjoyable and as bodily enriching and enlightening as possible. Yeah, if we ever slip into this idea that building collective power, pushing for systemic change, undoing systems of injustice, if we ever slip into the idea that we can do all that without having at its core what it is to be creative and recognizing and responding to, I think that perhaps universal human need and desire to embody that or be around people who are sharing it and be open to that. And so I think, yeah, there's then critiques around obviously the art industry and the art world as we know it, which is also very much part of growth-based economics, and it becomes really speculative and it becomes highly exclusionary in terms of who the barriers to entry to the art world. So there's that critique, but I think, yeah, I really appreciate the question, because I think it really forces us or encourages us to never lose sight of the fact that any kind of direct action, mutual aid, care work, collective work, wherever we are kind of on the streets in our dreams, unless it's firmly open to, resonant with, and connected to creativity in whatever form that can take, yeah, that just has to be there. So I really appreciate it.
Oh, no, good, yeah, put the hands for that one. The other question I would ask you here, we got a little moment before we can go and begin the transition, is how would you comment upon sources of information, and obviously the value of spaces like this where there can be a trusted sharing of those informations, those conversations, but perhaps there's individuals here or at large present that are just seeking safe community spaces. How would you recommend one goes about finding those, and then furthermore finding safe, navigated information streams as we begin attempting to build those, right?
So I believe some of the people involved, there are like efforts to map and just, yeah, share information around mutual aid networks, active in different spaces. And that can be hard to do, right? So on the one hand, there's that local knowledge, right? So like who's doing what in the areas where you live, and who's not doing what? Like what might be some of the things that you want to see and want to connect with people about and try and find ways of building, right? So there's that. What are the gaps in like local knowledge, and where do you turn to for that? And that becomes really highly specific. I think that's partly what this event has been really good at doing, is like amplifying people doing interesting work. So yeah, hopefully this is an opportunity to just like share that message around who's doing what around Long Beach and yesterday in LA. And then I guess there's the other part of that question, right, about like information more broadly, like where to find out more. And yeah, I can definitely share like particular, you know, there's people online with a good platform talking about degrowth, applying it to different contexts. sharing ideas about what it would take to actually generate more popular political support for some of these ideas. So there's definitely like online sources readily available to everyone with good information. But yeah, I think I would just like open it up really in terms of certainly here, in terms of getting a sense of like who's doing what and how, where these different mutual aid groups or activist groups overlap and connect. Like that's something that, hopefully today's events will underline.
No, that's phenomenal. Is it okay if I ask one more question? Yeah, okay, that's cool. As you're a married man, I would guess, yes, me myself, how would you talk about degrowth in family? Some things that almost on the surface level of concepts seem to be totally contradictory, and yet I don't imagine that's within the vision, but how would you discuss the expansion of these ideas, the networking, the community from not only that local level in terms of one's external, but one's internal community, being a household and the variety of different situations that individuals find themselves in that can allow or kind of force different ways in where those community buildings can take place.
Absolutely. I guess one thought there is to underline something about degrowth. I mean, it's in the title, right? It kind of implies, and it's often by sections of society who wish to misunderstand and marginalize anything that could be rightfully seen as anti-capitalist. Degrowth is often like deliberately misinterpreted as like, nothing grows, like everything shrinks, and it's like a recession or it's austerity, and in theory it's the absolute opposite of that. Some things have to degrow, right? So like the overproduction of like unnecessary luxury goods, SUVs, these kinds of certain forms of production which just have to be massively reduced, and those degrow. But degrowth doesn't mean everything shrinks, right? So some things really do have to grow in that sense, and that might be opportunities for households to feel less isolated, right? And so, yes, there could be different forms of provisioning and like different ways in which, if housing is decommodified, if land is decommodified, if people have the opportunity to spend time outside of their immediate nuclear family in a way which is mutually beneficial to them and their neighbors, whether that can be any kind of collective project, right? So part of it is creating spaces where individuals feel less alone, but also those kind of household units perhaps feel less alone, right? Where, yes, everyone continues to hopefully feel even more supported in raising their families the way they want to, creating those opportunities and building and strengthening those relationships that we all depend on. But if there's more opportunity to do that, because economic stability is something that is provided for everyone as a priority rather than people being left to fend for themselves, like that's also absolutely like underpinning this. Like what does it take to create those spaces of collective care and connection and community at these different scales? So it might be supporting households and families, but it might also just mean creating more opportunities for those people and those people to feel more connected with each other in their communities.
Any comments on higher education? Exactly, so many. Which ones do you say? Yeah, I'd love to hear you talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so that's it. I mean, it's not that long ago in many places of the world, right, where higher education is free, subsidized. It was funded by the state. It was seen as a public good, and that's what's been lost, for various reasons, right? But I think right now we're really seeing the ways in which knowledge production and knowledge sharing and knowledge creation and the conversations that are enabled by critical thinking and knowledge, those are actively being silenced, right? And so, absolutely, I think on the one hand, it's about defending sites of critical thinking and knowledge making, many of which are universities, and also not all of them in all of the same ways, but recognizing the kind of liberatory, emancipatory potential of networking through and sharing around strategies, knowledge, insights, and tactics that might have been used well in one place and seeing if they're applicable in another. And so actually relying on knowledge, more open-based and more open knowledge-based networks. That's what's really fundamental.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, I would open it to the floor. Anybody else have any questions that they'd like to ask Tristan while he's here on stage?
man, we gotta make sure we wake up too, for sure. Stick around and play this, man. Come on. That's right. Alright, y'all ready? We got people on too. Let's go. Yeah.
part of our pastime as a band called the Aquaponics. We enjoy indulging in cannabis and other mind-altering substances. So we wrote a song about it. It's called Drugs. You can stream it. Hey! It is true.
What else we got? Get that situated.
Should we do slow ending on this? How much time we got left?
You got until 5:10. It's 5:03. 7 minutes in heaven.
7 minutes in heaven. Whatever y'all want to do. Alright, we've been to Aquaponics. Y'all been fantastic. Thank y'all so much for the love. It was so much fun. Y'all make sure y'all stick around for the next bands, for the next artists. Anything else we need to plug?
Thank you everybody. Thank you for having us. And if you dig what we just laid out, go ahead and scan that QR code and give us a follow. There's what workshops?
There's zine workshops in the back and pin making. So y'all make your way in the meantime as the next artist gets set up.
Yeah.
But thank y'all. Thank y'all.
If you like the fun side, go check out the back side.
Absolutely, bro. That shit was nasty, y'all. Locked in for show, yo. You lead me with the energy and the vocals. That's impressive, bro. Hey, impeccable job, man.
I won a band.
Thank you. That already explains everything. Like Kevin, I switched it. Okay, so now do you have the one that says?
Right, straight out of that.
Alright, so I need 6,
Yeah, and then I
We'll make
said
it
suggestions
too
to degrow.
Maybe we
As
could do
micro
it
as
so it goes
possible.
out.
Okay, oh, micro.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were talking about like degrowing.
and we love to do something that we love to provide for y'all. Y'all part of the inscription, part of the actual writing of the lyrics. But without further ado, we're going to continue in this movement here, baby. Get some more sounds, some more jams, some more styles. Wow, with people.
they want we will, you know. Let's see what we got next.
man, bestower of flame. Let us not be deceived by the illusions of time. You've been here from the beginning and will outlast the end. We ride on your eternal spirals. Take us to a new dawn. The wind cries, the sky falls blue. Take us to a land beyond fear, where all glows green.
We love pain rocking, everybody. I'm called PLEZZURE. I'm a part of a duo, but unfortunately it's just me today. But we're still gonna be rocking and popping like always. So let's go ahead and get this started.
For a weekend, we went into a park. You know, we got our 501c3 and all that business, but went into a park, helped about 25 people, and our parks program was the original one. You probably have seen our green bus in the parks. Most of like Bixby, Drake, all those on the south and west side of town, north side of town. We have a warehouse. What's that?
Yeah, the green bus.
The green bus. We have a warehouse in North Long Beach where you can come 4 times a week to get free food. Look us up. LongBeachCommunityTable.com. You can get all that information there. We have about 3,500 active volunteers right now. Love to have you guys join that. We do homebound deliveries to people that can't come to us because of whatever their life circumstances are. That kind of took off during COVID. And then, like, we went from 40 homebound deliveries a weekend to 1,000 and by the end of the month. So it was 2 to 3 week transition from 40 to 1,000. It was crazy. But we've been doing this for 8 years now. I love what I do. It's literally the culmination of everything that I've ever done in my life. Every job I've ever had or whatever. And it just has been the perfect fit for me. And I've met so many great people. And I really, really love Long Beach. I'm originally from the Midwest. Can you tell? But I've been here for 35 years. So
You're from Long Beach.
Yeah. I'm definitely a Long Beach person, and I used to live not far from here. But anyway, I love Long Beach, and I just couldn't stand to see the way that people's issues were not really being dealt with politically, right? But that bam, that's exactly what you were talking about in your commercial, and it was like, oh, that's exactly how I've been feeling for years. And then our way to address this was to go directly to, like, food is your most basic essential, right, basically. And then having free food gives you more opportunity to get housed or stay housed or feed your kids, which lowers domestic violence, crime across the board, because desperate people are going to do desperate things. And so you, like, if your grandma needs a prescription but you have to choose between that prescription and food, after a while you have to get, grandma has to get her prescription. So it was just a way to lift a lot of people up, and almost everybody that works there has been through some kind of homelessness or has been, or I should say they were unhoused. were recently released, whatever. So we're literally lifting everybody up that is involved in what we're doing, and so there. Thank you. I love what that's why I love what I do, because that just you can see the difference, and I think that it's going to keep increasing. Unfortunately, that's what I fear, and because the political system really doesn't care about it, and so I'd like to see as many people get involved as possible, but also, yeah, eventually I want people to stand up and say, like, enough is more than enough at this point. We've got to,
fuck yeah!
You know, care about our community, which is why community is in our name. So look up www.longbeachcommunitytable.com. All the information is in there. Love to see you guys come out, and thanks for having me.
I just watched Beef, the show Beef, and then one of the characters named Ashley. So that's pretty cool. It is a good show. Yeah, I love Koreans. Yeah, man. Yeah, we're getting united just to like reframe what's going on here. We just say between that, you know. I'm Mario, I don't say anything, I just say things and then hope for the money. That's Buster Brown on the car. We got Buster Brown on the car. Me and Buster went to high school together. Eric Cerrone's on drums. That's Eric back there. We also went to high school together. We all graduated high school. Isn't that fucking dumb? We should all homeschool our children. I want to get all Candace going on her. My cat is so let's go, Dr. Ben. Are you a Dr. Ben? Oh yeah, good. Are you a Dr. Ben? Okay. We are. You're a Dr. Ben? Let's go. Holy shit, the Acidtrain's a Dr. Ben. Dude, I would love to hit the pavilion with the Acidtrain, huh? Put some tabs on some nachos. Oh. Has anyone ever done acid at a sports event? God, no. No? Yeah, I did acid at Angel Stadium one year. Yeah, terrible. You ever be on acid around like 3,000 Republicans? It was the worst time ever. It was the worst time ever. But yeah, I like dude, acid's sick. I love trains. You ever get on public transit? Public transit all day. All fucking day. If you have more than one car, you're our enemy. Okay? You have two cars. Okay? If you have two cars, you're not two cars. Take the bus. Take the train. And God forbid walk somewhere. God forbid use your God-given ability to walk. Someone can't walk. Someone can't walk. My God, take the bus. We should be able to tip bus drivers, right? Right? If we all try to get a bus that was like a little ahead of us, and we're like, yeah, go wait, and they waited, we should be able to tip them. We should be able to tip them. A bus driver is better than a priest. A bus driver never did us wrong. Yeah. And the train drivers, they need to stop acting so uppity. Talk to us. You know what I mean? Talk to us. Stop getting in your little cabin. You know, they get in the cabin so fast. Yeah, talk to us a little bit. Be like, yo, I'm your conductor. Like it's 1942 or whatever. I mean, railroads are their own thing. You know how the problematic creation of the railroad. But we don't have to get into that. We don't got to get into that. We got the creative power. Mr. Acid Train! Reverb.
Alright, well, that was cool. I'm ready to fucking go.
next one?
This delusional ass administration. It's called Delulu. Aptly titled.
Yeah. Beach Whole Foods on 2nd. Know what that is? Yeah, you know what that is? Okay, you guys can go there, put 2 pizzas in one thing, and then just like walk out and no one cares. No one cares. Take the sushi.
Yeah, they got the bar there.
They got the bar, exactly. They got the hot bar, they have the pizzas, okay? You guys.
They got the real bar, alcohol bar.
Oh, they have a alcohol bar?
On Fridays, they got an oyster special.
Okay, dude. We got the real information here. Now, Tuesday they have an oyster special. You ever hear that? Whole Foods oysters? I don't have health insurance, so I can't fuck it. I can't fuck with Whole Foods oysters. Hell no, yeah. Yeah, if there's anytime they're asking me for oyster money and then also asking me to like donate to like otters or like sea life outside, you guys got those?
Like they give a shit.
Yeah, like it's all getting funneled to fucking Peter Thiel or some loser.
Yeah, fuck no.
Dude, fuck Palantir, fuck little cameras in our toasters, fuck, social credit score. Hey, what does a penny do to anybody, huh? What the hell does a penny do to anybody besides give someone good luck every once in a while, you know? And now we're attacking the penny? Rude, I say rude. God.
Jupiter's a real planet.
Huh?
Jupiter's a real planet.
My God, Jupiter's a real planet, dude. Huh?
Pluto.
Hey, both of them are valid. Hey, every planet's a planet, you know? Even the moon's a planet. Fuck Artemis too.
I don't believe in space.
You don't believe in space? Oh, we're so close.
It's all lies. It's all lies.
It's all lies.
Spacey's right
Look
here.
at the sky. You think it's real? That fucking sky's not real, dude.
It's not real, though. It's going to be an hour and 3 where we discuss physics. Here's how long we discuss physics in an hour and 3. Hell yeah. How we doing, Ashley? You good?
Yeah, they're good to go.
Pretty much good to go. Hey, before we get out of here, can we give it up for our bartender working the bar working hard? Make sure we're tipping her. Dude, I'm so happy to introduce this next band. Please give it the hell up, huh? We're Strawberry. Hey, give it up.
Hell yeah.
Hey guys. How's it going? Sorry, I do unfortunately have to.
all these amazing people and artists.
To you.
happy backwards.
Yeah. You guys kick ass.
More serotonin, please.
I got more serotonin for y'all.
Everybody's calling, it's not even December. I'm only seeing pretenders. He's playing themselves and trying to follow agendas. I don't feel right if I don't put some other chances. I remember niggas used to round on my hands, saying all type of shit, but now be in my engines around this shit. Thinking about I'm something that's serious. I should write it out, bitches, report bitches. I got out the way and start looking behind my feet. It's always somebody when I hear the musical nigga.
More serotonin, please.
Thank God for being here with me. I've been trying to. I know my shit is decent. Every night I pray I take my life on my achievements. And God, I'm saying, gotta come to an agreement. Cause I was doing drugs and depending on my demons. Man, in my cup, full of pain and my agreements. I've been trying to heal, so there's no reason to see them. But I've been so convinced by this world that I should feed them. I get the knocks and down, that's all the shit that I don't believe in. Go with my life, not into the European. I'm hopping out of shit that only many people be in. Thinking about the money and the numbers I can see it. I'm thankful that my heart is still and I'm still beating. I'm happy that my network can say they still eating.
More serotonin, please.
you complain, you can scan, you like a I'm going to be more, that's all. Got us taking down, she's taking one.